The rain in London didn't wash things clean. It merely pressed the grime deeper into the cobblestones. Alara huddled into her trench coat, the damp chill seeping into her bones. She had been looking for a specific shade of varnish for a restoration project, but the winding alleyways of the East End had led her somewhere else entirely. The shop had no name, just a rusted iron sign squeaking rhythmically in the wind. The window display was a chaotic jumble of taxidermy crows, cracked porcelain dolls, and sextants that pointed to directions that didn't exist. Alara pushed the door open. A bell jingled, not a bright, cheery sound, but a dull thud, like a pebble hitting a coffin lid. "Closing soon," a voice rasped. The proprietor was barely visible behind a stack of moth-eaten rugs. He was a collection of sharp angles and gray skin, his eyes obscured by spectacles so thick they looked like the bottoms of milk bottles. "I'm just looking," Alara said, her voice sounding too loud in the dusty silence. She wandered through the aisles, the smell of old paper and decaying cedar filling her nose. Then she saw it. It stood in the far corner, draped in a heavy velvet sheet that had slipped partially off. It was a standing mirror, tall and imposing. The frame was not wood, but a dark, tarnished silver, carved into twisting vines that looked less like flora and more like skeletal fingers grasping the glass. Alara reached out, pulling the velvet down. The glass was pristine, too pristine for an antique. It didn't hold the slightly yellowed, warped reflection of old mercury glass. It was deep, dark, and swallowed the light around it. As Alara looked into it, she saw herself, pale, tired, wet hair plastered to her forehead. But for a microsecond, a fraction of a heartbeat, the reflection didn't look tired. It looked hungry. "Ah," the proprietor said, appearing suddenly at her elbow. "The seventh mirror, a polarizing piece." "It's beautiful," Alara whispered, though a cold prickle of nausea danced in her stomach. "Why is it called the seventh?" "6 were broken," the man said, his smile revealing too many gums. "Vanity is a heavy burden, miss. This one bears the weight well." "How much?" "For you?" He tilted his head, the thick lenses flashing opaque white. "A remarkably low price. Let us say it takes up too much room. I want it gone." She bought it. She didn't know why. She felt a compulsion, a magnetic pull that overrode the screaming instinct in her hindbrain telling her to run. Alara lived alone in a drafty Victorian terrace in Kensington. The mirror was delivered 2 days later, wrapped in burlap and chains. The movers were pale and sweating when they set it up in her bedroom, refusing a tip, eager only to leave the house. That first night, the atmosphere in the room changed. The air grew heavier, thicker, as if the humidity had spiked, yet the temperature plummeted. Alara sat on the edge of her bed, brushing her hair. She watched herself in the new mirror. Brush down, brush down, brush down. She stopped, hands suspended in mid-air. In the mirror, her hand was still moving downward. Alara froze. She stared, breath hitched in her throat. The reflection's hand completed the stroke, then slowly, agonizingly raised up to match Alara's frozen position. "Just a trick of the light," she muttered. She turned off the lamp. Darkness flooded the room, save for the streetlight filtering through the curtains. She lay in bed, facing the mirror. The silver frame seemed to glow faintly, the vines looking like they were writhing in slow motion. She closed her eyes, but she couldn't sleep. The silence was absolute, yet it felt loud. It was the silence of a predator holding its breath. Then she heard it, a soft sound against the glass. Tap, tap. It came from the inside. By the fourth day, Alara looked like a ghost. Dark circles bruised the skin under her eyes. She had covered the mirror with a thick quilt, but every time she returned to the room, the quilt was on the floor, neatly folded. She couldn't leave the house. The compulsion to be near the mirror was a physical ache, like an addiction. She stood before it, challenging it. "What are you?" Her reflection stared back. It was Alara, but better. Her skin was luminous, her posture commanding. The exhaustion that plagued the real Alara was absent in the glass. Then the reflection smiled. Alara was not smiling. "You look terrible, darling," the reflection mouthed. No sound came out, but the words echoed directly in Alara's mind, slippery and cold like an eel. Alara stumbled back, knocking over a vase. "You're not real. I'm hallucinating. Carbon monoxide. I need to check the boiler." "The boiler is fine," the reflection thought at her. The entity in the glass took a step forward, not toward the front of the frame, but closer to the surface. It pressed a hand against the glass. "It's this world that's making you sick, Alara. It's so gray out there, so disappointing." "Stop it!" Alara screamed, grabbing a heavy brass candlestick. "I'll break you!" The reflection laughed, a visual distortion, the glass rippling like water disturbed by a stone. "Go ahead, break the glass. You'll only let me out faster." "The glass isn't a cage, Alara. It's a door, and you've already turned the handle." Alara dropped the candlestick. She fled the room, slamming the door and locking it. She backed away into the hallway, sliding down the wall, sobbing into her hands. From behind the locked door, she heard a sound that made her blood freeze. It was the sound of her own voice, humming a lullaby she hadn't thought of since childhood. Days bled into a week. Alara barricaded herself in the living room, sleeping on the sofa. But the house was turning against her. Mirrors in the bathroom, the reflective surface of the toaster, the darkened window panes at night. She saw her everywhere. The other Alara. The other was no longer confined to the bedroom mirror. She was colonizing every reflection. Alara stood in the bathroom, splashing cold water on her face. "You know I'm right," the voice whispered from the drain, from the tiles, from the air itself. "Look at your life. You restore old broken things because you feel broken. You are lonely. You are mediocre. You are fading." "I exist," Alara whispered, water dripping from her chin. "Do you?" Alara looked up. The bathroom mirror did not show the bathroom. It showed a vast obsidian landscape, a place of terrible, cold beauty. And standing there, in a gown of woven shadows, was the other. "I can take the pain away," the other said. "We can switch. You can come here, where there is no time, no decay, no failure. And I will take your place. I will live the life you are too weak to master. I will be the daughter your parents wanted. I will be the artist you failed to become." "No," Alara said, but her voice lacked conviction. The horror wasn't that a monster wanted to kill her. The horror was that the monster was right. Reality warped. Walls breathed, growled, bled. "Reality is perception, Alara," the reflection said. Alara ran back to the bedroom. Frost coated the windows. The seventh mirror pulsed like a heart. The glass softened into mercury. The other reached out. "I am not your enemy," she said. "I am your potential. Give me your hand." "What will happen to me?" Alara asked. "You will rest," the other promised. "Just silence." The offer crushed her. She touched the glass. Cold seized her, fingers locked. "Thank you," the other whispered and pulled. The transition was violent and silent. Alara passed through the membrane of the world. She awoke inside the mirror. She saw her bedroom from behind the glass. The entity wore her body. It smiled. "Finally," it said. Alara screamed, but sound could not pass. "You will rest," the entity repeated. The velvet fell. Darkness claimed her. She felt the others, the six, waiting, watching. Sometimes the cloth lifted. She watched the entity live her life better than she ever could. Loved, successful, free. That was the torture. Alara stopped screaming. She stood still. She fixed her hair. She practiced smiling. She waited. She watched. And she began to plan for the moment the mirror would be sold again.